Hello, viewers. We're going to do another channeled reading tonight. I have had Richard Nixon and Pat Nixon with me for a couple of weeks now. They wanted me to do the channeling with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. before doing this video. And I feel like it may end up being a couple of videos. I'm not sure. We'll see how time goes. I'm getting a little bit of mixed signals already about some things he wants to talk about and some things he doesn't. So it's rather interesting. Nixon, as everyone knows, went through Watergate and resigned from office before being impeached. Just for a little bit of background on Nixon, he was born January 9th, 1913. He passed away April 22nd, 1994 at the age of 81. Pat, his wife, was born in 1912 and passed away in 1993, a year before Richard passed away. It's interesting, on Nixon's tombstone is written, "The greatest honor history can bestow is the title of peacemaker." And Nixon was known for ending the Vietnam War, for ending the draft, opening relations with China. He did not like communism, and was interesting that he went into China. Maybe we'll see what he has to say on that, on communism. He also initiated the anti-ballistic missile treaty with Russia in 1972. I believe it was Bush Jr. who ended that treaty. Pardon me for saying a lot. I'm gathering my thoughts a little bit. He was also the president during the Apollo 11 moon landing. He began the war on cancer. So he also, pardon me, I'm scanning my notes here. 1973, we had the oil crisis under Nixon. 1971, he ended the gold-backed dollar. We used to back the dollar, with gold, and in 1971, he ended that. He tried to control inflation by freezing prices and wages in 1972 and again in 1973. We had a huge meat shortage, I remember, and I remember the lines at the gas filling stations, at the gas stations, filling stations as they called them in those days. Gas shortages that we occurred during that time. He also formed the Environmental Protection Agency and passed the Clean Air Act of 1973. He also formed the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA. And love him or not, there were some good things that he did. He avoided direct combat assistance to several countries, but he sold arms to Israel, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. He was the president who started selling arms to Saudi Arabia. So we may get into a few things with that. I do have some cheat sheets on some of his cabinet members in case they come up. Right now I'm kind of feeling like he doesn't want to talk about Watergate too much. He does want to talk about Mueller and the Mueller investigation. So I'm just going to take a sip of my tea here. I'm trying to keep my voice going and see what comes through here with Richard Nixon. So let me just see where he wants to begin. If he wants to begin with Mueller. Sorry, Artie is mewing behind me here. He's talking about that Mueller has a great detailed report. He outlines very clearly obstruction of justice. He has all the evidence backing it up. This report is the summary, which is the 448 pages we've seen, even with redactions that we have seen. There is much more to the report than that. There is more to the report than that, and the amount of evidence is substantial. He's talking about Trump doesn't know what he's up against with Mueller because Mueller documents everything, everything. He's talking about the letters that Mueller wrote to William Barr, documenting in William Barr in his testimony how he was saying, "Why didn't you just call me?" You know, because Mueller documents everything. He's a career prosecutor. He's talking about the Mueller investigation was cut short, that Mueller wanted to continue longer. And when he felt like he wasn't going to be allowed to take it longer, and it feels like about the time where the confirmation hearings were going on with William Barr, he knew that he was going to get stopped or told to wrap it up. That's when he began farming out investigations rapidly. He was already handing off some things to the FBI, but he started giving out more when Barr was coming in. He knew it wasn't going to be good. Yeah, Mueller wanted to see more on the financial side. He wanted to see more on the bank loans to Trump. He wanted to see more about money from in different banks, that Deutsche Bank being one, Chase Manhattan, Bank of America. He's talking about several banks, all. Yeah, and tying in also with the campaign finance accounts. The campaign finance accounts he wanted to look at, as well as the inaugural fund. Yeah, he handed that off to the Southern District of New York because he knew he wasn't going to have time to get all the information on the inaugural fund. And he's using a little profanity. He's saying Trump has his ass in a sling, basically, and I'm going to leave out a few other adjectives. He's talking about the Campaign Finance Reform Act was put in place partially because of the Watergate burglary was paid for out of slush funds from the campaign, the committee to reelect the president, the CRP. He's talking about yeah, slush funds and these campaign finance committees that are being used for unethical or non-campaign things. Yeah, he's talking about in his day, slush funds were a big deal, that everybody had slush funds, and he said that it's still prevalent. It's still prevalent. A lot of it is hidden, sort of underground in LLCs and different places, but a lot of bribes and things are being paid for out of slush funds. He's talking about the campaign finance funds. Are going to go through a major overhaul. A major overhaul. He sees this happening within the next 5 years. He's talking about similarities with Trump and himself owning it, um, with too much presidential power, abusing power. Um, He's talking about the similarities too with how many cabinet members they both lost. In particular, he's talking about like John Mitchell and Ehrlichman and Haldeman and various other people that resigned under him. How many AGs he went through, how many attorney generals he went through. Yeah, he's saying Barr is like Bork. Bork. That was um, the AG resigned when Nixon had ordered the Saturday Night Massacre to fire Archibald Cox, who was the special counsel, the Mueller of the day, and Bork was the attorney general, refused and resigned. The second in command, or Bork was the third in command in the Department of Justice. Richardson was the AG. Yeah, the first and second in command resigned, and Bork was third in command, and he actually fired Archibald Cox, the special counsel. But another special counsel was named. I wrote that name down somewhere. Hang on. Jaworski. Did the Jaworski report. I can't pronounce it. Sorry. He's talking about, even though there was a lot of resignations and things going on, and then, of course, the heat of Watergate putting pressure on them, they still got a lot accomplished. They still did things, and he's talking about how Trump is not doing things. He's not creating any significant legislation or doing anything. He's very proud of the Environmental Protection Agency. Doing things for the next generation of children. Yeah, he was trying to slow down the war machine, getting us out of Vietnam, ending Vietnam. It really sort of started under Johnson, and then Nixon wrapped it up, and then he ended the draft. And then other countries where they were asked to go in and bring military service to other countries, he refused. So he did agree to sell arms to some of these countries, but he refused. And he's talking about trying to slow down the war machine, the amount of money made off of our war machine, the contracts, the government contracts, is amazing. He's talking about we can have research and development, we can have protection for our country without putting as much money as we are into the war machine. He's talking about January of 2020 is going to be very significant. More's going to come to light in January of 2020 about what all Trump has been doing. More will come out. So a lot of the things that have been redacted or that we just haven't even heard about yet, we're going to hear a lot more in January of 2020. He's talking a little bit about also the security clearances. He's talking about in particular with John Mitchell. That he actually asked the FBI to not do like a regular security clearance for some reason on him. He and John Mitchell had been friends throughout the campaign. I believe John Mitchell actually was his campaign manager for his re-election in 1972, and possibly in his first term also as campaign manager. But there was something in John Mitchell's background that he didn't want coming out through a regular security clearance, and much like what went on with Jared Kushner's security clearance, things are going to come out, conflicts of interest. You know, we think of Jared Kushner and his association with Saudi Arabia, but Nixon is saying that Jared has a lot more information on Russia also. He's talking about basically that what the Democrats are doing is sort of impeachment proceedings without calling it impeachment proceedings, that they're going to get more evidence before they formalize it into calling it impeachment. Investigations. He's saying that Barr may be later tried and convicted of perjury. He's kind of laughing. He's talking about they all think they're going to get away with it. He said, we thought the same thing. You know, conspiracy, cover up, just bury it and try to move on, whatever, get everybody to do their talking points and their spiel. He said it's just arrogance that they think they're going to get away with it, and they're not. He's saying Mueller will talk to Congress. He's going to bring general information that we already know that's in the Mueller report. He's going to, reiterate that, but he's going to bring out some information that we don't know. There are redactions that Mueller did not believe needed to be redacted, and he's going to be bringing some evidence that will show some additional information. Oh, he said Mueller is mad. He is mad at Barr's double talking. Yeah, saying the DOJ cannot indict a sitting president, and then saying, well, you should have brought out the charges, and if there weren't going to be charges, then there shouldn't have been an investigation. He's sick of it. He's sick of it. He's mad. He said this is a career official with a highly respected reputation, a very cool, even-tempered man, and he's mad. He's laughing. I just in my head I went to Silent Bob, and he's laughing. He's like, yeah, he's not going to be silent. He's talking about his upbringing, that he had a simple upbringing, very traditional upbringing. It wasn't a family of privilege. he got power hungry as he got into politics. You know, it brought out his eagerness for power. Yeah, he's saying anyone who studies constitutional law will see that Trump is not holding up the oath of office. He could be prosecuted just for on the basis of constitutional law. He's actually kind of mad that no presidential reform will get passed in Congress until after Trump's gone. He's like, imagine in 2020, like when he's not there, and they still can't get it passed until after the elections and get more Democrats in. He's saying that there should be all kinds of written law, flat out stating, you know, what's allowed and what's not. Strengthening the emoluments clause. He's saying those who would impeach will win their re-elections in 2020. So he's feels like he's talking about the Republicans, that those who switch and start partnering with the Democrats in a bipartisan way, that those Republicans would stand a better chance of getting reelected than the ones that are going to back him tooth and nail to the bitter end. He's just laughing. He said, they've learned nothing. They've learned nothing. They're trying to do my playbook of how I did things, and they see where it got me. You know, they think because there's no tapes that they're going to get away with it. He said, my mistake was I had tapes. My biggest mistake, he said. Yeah, and he had people within his administration that took plea deals because they knew this was not going to go well. And he said, we haven't seen all of the plea deals that are going to happen yet. There will be more people that start flipping. John Dean being one who testified pretty openly. He's talking about Charles Colson. I was trying to understand what name he was saying. Charles Colson also cooperated. Ended up with a lighter sentence. Yeah, how many people are going to go down for conspiracy, perjury, obstruction of justice alone is going to astound us. He wants me to reiterate from my notes. Hang on. Yeah, Watergate had 69 total indictments, 48 guilty. 48 guilty. Of those 48 guilty, 5 of those were the burglars who actually did the break-in, paid for out of the slush fund. G. Gordon Liddy and E. Howard Hunt. Those were the 2 guys who were heading up the CRP. They were the ones that arranged the burglary. They were the ones that did all the masterminding of it. G. Gordon Liddy served probably the most time of anyone in jail. He served 4.5 years. 4.5 years. We have longer sentences for carrying pot right now. E. Howard Hunt served 33 months, so not even 3 years. Most of the other people, John Mitchell served 19 months. Halderman served 18 months. John Ehrlichman served 18 months. Charles Colson, who cooperated, served 7 months. John Dean served 4 months on obstruction because he implicated Nixon. He cooperated. He's saying the judges just don't want to be known as the judge that gave because he's John Mitchell could have served 30 years max. 30 years max. He was sentenced to 2.5 to 8 years. That was reduced to 1 to 4 years on an appeal, and he only served 19 months. So he's talking about the judicial system. They need to start doing the maximum sentences if they want to get corruption out of politics. He's quite emphatic. He makes me want to be in your face kind of energy. When they do that, I have to pause for a second. Excuse me, Mr. Nixon, President Nixon. When they do that, it's their way of showing me how they were in life. I'm going to go back to my Marjorie Merriweather post video for a second, where she made me feel like I needed to sit up straighter and that I should be wearing jewelry. It's not that they care about that on the other side. They don't. It's their way of showing me how they were in life. And he makes me feel like, kind of angst. He's just shaking his head at the Republicans. He said they know no limits now. They know no limits. It's no holds barred now. Barred now. Barred. Yeah, he's just talking about Republican senators that are fighting this, in the Senate meetings last week with William Barr, that they should be ashamed. They should be ashamed. They should be looking at the law. They should be reading the report. He's amazed at how many have not even read the report all the way through. The full Mueller report will come out, the unredacted, and all the backup evidence will come out to Congress. Pelosi's team will be able to get it. It's going to end up going through court probably to get it, but they will get it. He's saying that all that evidence needs to come out because that will bring the marriage of minds between the Republicans and Democrats to where people start crossing over and getting serious about all this. The evidence needs to come out for others to get serious. Yeah, he's saying they're on the gravy train. They're on the gravy train. They don't want to cut off the gravy. The Freedom Caucus. He's saying Mueller is going to undermine Barr in his testimony. Barr's going to look very foolish, very foolish. He just went, oh, the women that are asking the questions. He's like, wow. Although he was, he claimed to be a supportive of equal rights and equal rights amendments. He was not very outspoken about it, nor did he have a lot of women or people of different races in his cabinet or in his administration. So he caught a lot of flack for that, but he's like, watch out for these women now. He's talking about where he's kind of doing a strange alliteration to this. He's talking about we're in our dog days of summer of this, where the summer's winding down. Things will be speeding up, and the summer's winding down. We're about through this season. We're about through the season of all this investigation and all the conversations and everything, the legal processes. The court cases will continue for years, but the pressure on Trump, we're in the dog days of summer now, so we're about through the worst of it. So once the courts start approving for backing up the subpoenas that they've been putting out from Congress, once the courts back them up, it'll happen very, very quickly. Oh, he's telling me to grab my notes again. Hang on. The impeachment hearings in Watergate began in like October, I believe it was, of 1973. Just trying to find where I wrote it down. So it began in October. The impeachment hearings began in October of 73. By March of 74, they had the grand jury had passed down a lot of major indictments. Nixon was listed as an unindicted co-conspirator. Sound familiar? The Michael Cohen case. Yeah, not October of 73. The investigation was going on by then. Sorry, the impeachment hearings began May 9th of 1974. May 9th, so after major indictments. So much like what we're seeing now with Flynn, they had all these major indictments, Flynn, Manafort and stuff. They had all these major indictments, and then it went into the impeachment hearings. Impeachment hearings began May 9th of 1974. By July 27th of 1974, they had enough votes for obstruction of justice by July 27th. Nixon resigned on August 9th. On August 9th of 1974. So once they started the impeachment hearings, just in a matter of 2-3 months, you could tell where it was going. That's what we're in right now. It's like these hearings, even though they're not calling them impeachment hearings, it's the investigation of the Mueller report and all the other outlying investigations also. It's going to go very quickly now. Yeah, he said once the courts start backing up all the subpoenas, it's going to be like wham, 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 and we're just going to keep hearing more and more and more, and people start waking up in the country. Talk to me a little bit about Russia coming into our elections. Are they still doing this? Or are they going to continue to do this into 2020? Yeah, they're doing it now. Yeah, we do not know the extent that Russia meddled in our election yet because although Mueller has information in the Mueller report about the hackings and using social media, poll information that was given to Russia and everything. What we don't have a firm grip on yet are hacking of actual voter machines and if not the machines, the tallies, like where votes were changed in the tallies. We haven't seen that yet because the investigation hasn't been done. So it's going to take the Democrats getting empowered to investigate more fully to understand to what level Russia was hacking into our systems. Yeah, he's actually, because I was asking him in my head, would paper ballots help? And he's actually saying not really, because the tallies, the totals, and when they're fed into go up a level and up a level where they're doing their grand totals and things, they're getting changed. So say you have 100 handwritten, paper ballots, and you feed them into the system, and then it's changed in the system later. That's what he's showing me. Because we're so computerized now. He said, we're too smart. We're too smart. We have all these computers. We're too smart. he's laughing. He's saying, technology was the death of me. I was, wiretapping in my office. It was the death of my presidency. Yeah, he's giving Trump credit for that. He's saying he's very smart to not want recordings of any meetings, not wanting any notes, tearing up notes. He's talking about how mad Trump is at Don McGahn for having notes about everything, documenting everything. Trump's not smart enough to understand these career professionals and legal people. They know how to document everything in writing and keep notes. He's talking about another similarity with him and Trump was trying to utilize the FBI to go after. For Nixon, he's talking about going after competitors who are running against him, or anyone that was causing him problems. He would stick the FBI or the CIA or the IRS on them, put them under an IRS audit or something, just to make life difficult for them if anyone challenged his authority. Yeah, and he's talking about Trump's trying to do that also. He's trying to do that also, to sick the FBI and the CIA on other people, but it's not going anywhere that much. He's causing some problems for some people, but not as much as he could if they were partnering with him. They're yesing him a lot, like, okay, yeah, and then they're not doing it. He's trying to get them to. He's talking about we came very close to a Saturday night massacre with Trump, that he, was really trying to get someone to fire Mueller. The problem is he didn't have the courage to do it himself. Nixon was the same way. He tried to get the Department of Justice, the AG, the Deputy AG, to do it. They both resigned. They wouldn't do it. He's talking about more peaceful times, times when it was simpler to prove things. He's going on a little bit of a tangent here, so bear with me. Yeah, he's even talking about a little bit about his romance with Pat. They had two daughters together. What were their names? Trisha and Julie Nixon. Is that right? Um, he's talking about how Pat didn't want to marry him, and how he was so persistent. He sees that behavior with Trump, with women, very persistent. Wow. I'm feeling Pat's energy coming in too. They're talking about Trump is a wife abuser. Yeah. It feels like with Pat that she went through some abuse with Richard when he would get angry, when he would get frustrated, that he would get physical with her. She's saying it's known, it's documented, like hospital visits and things. It's known. It's not secret knowledge. It's known. Um, Nixon feels like with his temper, like he couldn't control it as well, and would lash out at her in front of people. So it was kind of a known thing that even some of the people around the White House knew that he got aggressive with her. He said with Trump, like there are probably White House staff in the living quarters area that are probably aware, and that they try to keep an eye on Melania. He gets physical with her. He's not as blatant about it. Richard is talking about his um, anger would like hit him so fast, like he couldn't control himself. His rage would hit him so fast, and it wasn't um, rage at Pat. It was rage over something else, and he took it out on Pat. And Pat saying she had no doubt that he loved her. She just felt like he didn't respect her as a human being. There's a big difference. She said he was better once they were out of the White House, but he was so angry when they first left. He was very difficult when they first got out of the White House, but she said once they'd been away for a while, he was much calmer. And she said it was kind of strange because he was so calm in his diplomacy when he was meeting with leaders. He didn't get angry or anything with leaders when he was meeting with them. He put on that diplomacy that he needed to. Um, Mostly because there were note takers there and there were people recording and there were TV cameras and things. Um, yeah, but if he had built up anger over something, he would lash out at her. Yeah, it feels like his daughters would be aware of that. His daughters would be aware of it. Yeah, he's sorry for that now. Yeah, they're different when they're on the other side. He sees now that that was not right. He's kind of like eagerly watching and waiting because he knows what's going to happen to Trump. He's like, let's watch, let's watch. This is about to get really interesting. It's like, have we learned nothing in America? Have we learned nothing in our politics? It feels like he had quite a bit of bipartisan legislation that went on in his time. He's talking about Teddy Kennedy going all the way back to Nixon's time, trying to reform healthcare, trying to nationalize it or something, all the way back to then. Um, Trying to help Medicare and Medicaid. He's saying they will eventually nationalize healthcare, but it's going to take a while because of all the health insurance companies and all the money that comes in from the lobbyists there. It's kind of like it's gonna go in increments. Like it's not gonna be a bam, we're gonna nationalize it on this day and change it completely, overhaul it. It's gonna be like a step by step to towards a nationalization of healthcare. He's laughing. He said drug companies are gonna get screwed. They're gonna get screwed. All the billions they've been profiting off of. Yeah, and he's saying they're going to start putting more money back into cancer research and disease research and um, scientific investigation for to help it heal our communities, heal our the people that are suffering from illness. Yeah, he's saying cancer should be like almost eradicated by now. If they had kept funding in place all through the years since he developed the war on cancer, we should have had an eradication of cancer by now, but we haven't. Um, the money is not managed well. The right research isn't being done, isn't being funded. crimes and misdemeanors, mismanaging those funds that are going into research. Money that's not making its way to who's actually doing the research. There's crimes and misdemeanors, in so many factions of our government. Paying somebody who doesn't know anything about cancer for cancer research, that kind of thing. That's what the feeling I'm getting. Padding pockets. Well, I'm going to stop there for now. I'm going to thank Richard and Pat for coming in, the Nixons. I hope you found this interesting. I have a feeling there's going to be a part 2, because there's some other subjects that I didn't get to and would like to ask both of them about. I'm feeling like there's some questions he's still not ready to go there with me yet. There's some questions about Watergate he doesn't quite want to go there, but I'm hoping to get to a few more questions for you with this. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next channeling video. Bye bye.